A big part of success depends on our ability to understand and manage our emotions. They can energize and keep us focused on what we want. They can drag us down into feelings of hopelessness. They can distract us to things that don't matter or might go wrong. Emotions can also drive us to say or do things that are harmful, getting us into even deeper trouble. In Learning Power, we teach students how to observe, name, and understand their emotions by using a simple color code for the primary attitudes we all have. Green represents feelings of happiness and confidence. Blue represents sadness and disappointment. Yellow stands for feeling afraid and anxious. Finally, red represents anger and frustration. Even though we commonly regard 3 of these primary attitudes as negative, it's important to help students understand that each attitude is part of a healthy emotional life. Before we dig into the Learning Power competency of communication, a little side trip into the theory of what makes us who we are might be helpful. What makes your identity different from mine or someone else's is only partly attributable to our genetic codes or unique personalities. Think of how your identity changes, how it really changes, when you get swept up or pulled down into a particularly strong emotional state. Afterwards, you might wonder to yourself who that really was. You may have said or done things that left you feeling regretful, guilty, or confused over what alien force took over your body. The tricky thing about identity has to do with the fact that it is without substance. It doesn't even exist. Identity is more like a pattern or conspiracy of things that hold together for the most part and work together most of the time. Part of your identity is generated out of the beliefs you hold about yourself, other people, the world around you, the past and future. And these beliefs are nothing but very brief abstracts or single-phrase summaries of much more elaborate stories, stories that you tell yourself, that your culture tells you, stories that circulate like a bloodstream around and through your primary community. That's all very verbal, seeing how stories and their abbreviated beliefs are dependent on language and talking to yourself. The other part of identity floats to the surface from deeper down, not down from your mind, but up from your body. This force is not verbal, but visceral, tied to powerful needs and feelings often lodged in your gut and vital organs. According to this theory, needs and feelings are not so much things we talk about as things we express in mood, temper, movement, and behavior. Since you are serving as a Learning Power mentor, we need to talk about communication on 2 distinct levels. How you can most effectively communicate to your student as you help him or her understand the insights and practices of effective communication. In other words, you need to understand how to communicate about communication. The quality of connection with your student might be thought of as the deeper message inside the message of what you will teach him or her about how to communicate well with others. This deeper aspect of our Learning Power competency is for your eyes only, confidential and top secret, but not really. You won't teach it to your student, but we hope it will inform and guide how you mentor your student. Learning Power identifies 4 needs of identity called ego needs that we all have. The shape and character of our identity has a lot to do with how well our ego needs were met in the past and to what degree we are finding satisfaction for these needs right now. Here we make a very important point. Needs and feelings cannot be separated or compartmentalized at this level, like all that talking going on inside our heady stories and beliefs. In fact, whether or not a belief is being met has only secondary value as compared to the question of whether the individual feels satisfied. You can be in the most secure location possible and still feel unsafe. In that case, what matters most to you is how you feel, not simply whether your need for safety is being met. In Learning Power, we speak of feeling needs, the 4 feeling needs of identity we all have. The need to feel safe, the need to feel loved, the need to feel capable, and the need to feel worthy. When individuals feel safe, loved, capable, and worthy, they are more secure and confident in who they are. They also tend to be more successful in solving problems and overcoming challenges. Now let's move directly into the Learning Power competency of communication to see how all this works together. The stories and beliefs that younger students tell themselves serve a purpose in disputing, confirming, validating, or justifying how they feel. Yes, I did say dispute, which means that oftentimes a different or better story than the one currently being recited can effectively shift a student's perspective on something and leverage a positive change in how he or she feels. It is absolutely vital that you, as a Learning Power mentor, can see this dynamic within yourself. Your ability to support and assist a younger student into a more creative and resourceful state depends in no small way on your self-knowledge and emotional self-mastery. Let's set up a scenario where you and your student are interacting. You can model for him or her how to listen deeply to another person's stories and beliefs. Behind the spoken words are the body language of posture, movement, gestures, and facial expressions. And beneath all of that are the feeling needs of your student. In Learning Power, we use the color codes to identify 4 primary attitudes: happy, sad, scared, and angry. Inside the stories and beliefs of the student, you should listen for a deeper resonance with his or her needs to feel safe, loved, capable, and worthy. Where might one or more of these feeling needs be threatened, compromised, or neglected? Whatever you do about it, make sure that you communicate understanding and empathy. Now we can move up into the dynamics of communication we hope to help students understand. As a method for effective communication, we are benefiting from the work of Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who has developed a theory and practice around what he calls nonviolent communication, or NVC. It is especially useful when communication has gotten stuck or is sliding toward conflict. Instead of reacting with judgment to what the other person is saying or doing, the first step in Marshall's formula is to make observations. These are matter-of-fact things that any objective third person would notice. The words, volume, and tone of speech, for instance, rather than what the other person might be intending or assuming. This first step creates the necessary pause in which a deeper understanding can be sought. Next, each partner identifies the feelings inside him or herself that followed what the other person said or did. Instead of saying, "Your hateful words made me angry," the more accurate statement would be, "When you said what you did in the way you said it, I felt angry." The third step is to trace the feeling not outward to the other person as its cause, but internally to a need that is being neglected, ignored, threatened, or violated. The thing about needs is that they are universal to all human beings, and identifying which needs are in question can for that reason provide a place for effective communication to begin. When you said what you did and the way you said it, I felt angry because I have a need to interact peacefully with others. Once the deeper needs have been identified, effective communication can move on to explore various ways of sharing, supporting, helping, or working together for a solution. While one partner may not sympathize directly with the angry reaction of the other, the need to get along is common to them both. From that deeper point of agreement, a mutually preferred outcome can now be pursued. When you said what you did and the way you said it, I felt angry because I have a need to interact peacefully with others. Can we agree to speak to each other in a way that honors our mutual desire to connect and be understood? Remember the acronym OFNR: Observations, Feelings, Needs, and Requests. Beyond the most obvious and important activity of your personal interactions with students, here's a great way to help them develop more effective skills in communication. Stories offer one of the most common and useful entry points. As you and/or the student read together, or during a time of reflection after the story is finished, talk about what the main characters are doing or saying. In other words, make observations. Then try to look behind what is obvious and ask about the feelings a character is likely having, moving through that to the related question of the character's needs. What is really at issue in the story? Do a short informal study of the story together, tracking the various needs that come together for cooperation, conflict, or compromise. Finally, with this deeper understanding and empathy, invite the student to imagine how things might have turned out differently, how a conflict might have been avoided, a problem solved, a goal accomplished, a friendship strengthened. Working with alternative scenarios in this way helps to expand the younger student's mental frame, stretching his or her emotional intelligence in creative directions.